I love video games. Ever since I was 5 years old, in my diapers, trying to play Tony Hawk on the Dreamcast, while my controller was unplugged and my dad was secretly playing it. Ever since then, I've always been a gamer. I'd play new games, I'd play old games, AAA, AA, indie, it did not matter. As long as I got that tingling in my boilings, and it made me want to play that game, I was going to play that game. I was a baby that was addicted to fentanyl when it came to video games. Video games was the best invention we've ever made, except maybe peanut butter and chocolate. And when it comes to retro video games, sometimes it becomes very hard to actually play the older titles, mainly because of the consoles that they're affiliated with, or the cartridge itself. It's a cruel reality that, like, at a certain point, stuff just breaks down. And that means also video game consoles and video games, entirely, especially the physicals. And that's why there's websites called Myrient, where they basically preserve everything when it comes to video games. We're talking about the full ISO download to like a 3DS video game, or a PlayStation 1 video game, or etc, etc. But that site's not just ROMs and ISOs, but they have ROM hacks, they have emulators, they have everything that you would ever need to get like a game running on an emulator. And the library of Myrient is so huge that the storage on that thing is 390 terabytes full of just gaming preservation. Basically, gaming history. They even have the ISOs to certain demo discs from the era. And honestly, I think that's really impressive. So you're probably asking, well, why am I talking about Myrient? And it's mainly because this website and the 390 terabytes worth of like just video game history is going to disappear on the 31st of March of 2026. This is what it says on their website. Myrient will be shut down on the 31st of March 2026. Download any content you find important. More information can be found on our Discords and Telegram channels. Myrient's not shutting down because of some company sued them. When it comes to this situation, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of hands in the bucket. And one of those hands is just server costs. The server cost to run Myrient is like $6,000 a month. Bruh, that is like buying a fucking 5090 every month. And sure, you might be able to save like $2,000 or maybe $1,000 worth, but still, that's still a lot of money. If I was spending that money every month, I would be broke. You couldn't work at McDonald's and flip patties and keep Myrient going. And number 2 was paywall managers. So if I'm reading this correctly, a bunch of people basically figured out how to bypass the donation message and like the download protections on Myrient, and there were like certain things being paywalled by just people using the site. So pretty much basically making the internet speed slow, or like making it where you have to spend money for like an ISO or a ROM. That's what I interpret from it. And number 3, and this is really not a shock to anyone, especially if you're a PC gamer, RAM and just SSDs and just storage hard drives are just going through the roof, that Myrient can't afford these costs. And SSD space and hard drive space is really important, mainly because even though it has 390 terabytes worth of just gaming history, you're gonna need more storage because stuff is just posted every day, probably on there. And just listing off all these things, you can tell that Myrient is pretty much cooked. If Myrient was a pirate ship, one of like the captain's lackeys would walk up to him and be like, "Sir, there's too many holes in the boat, boss. We gotta get out of here." But the pirate's like, "No, I want to die with the ship. I want to be over there saluting while the violins are playing." And everybody's scrambling around trying to archive everything and trying to download everything on here, but I don't think you're gonna get through it all because, like I said, 390 terabytes. And as much as I want to think, and I've already made this joke before, a white Hercules to fight the rising odds, I don't think there's no way people are gonna like donate enough money to keep this thing up and running for like, even if people got together and paid it all together, that's only just 1 month. I mean, you'd have to worry about the next month and then the next month after that. So I just don't see it really being possible. And that's on top of buying storage space for it. Myrient is so cooked, it is like the fried motherboard that is sitting in my floor right now waiting for a boat to be set on fire so it can ascend to Valhalla. Dude, there's like 72 CPUs up there, but I just haven't done it yet. I've been procrastinating. But honestly, it's a real damn shame, especially with how much is preserved on Myrient. And I know there's gonna be that one guy in the comments that's gonna say, who cares about gaming history or game preservation? And I feel like saying that is almost like saying art doesn't really matter. That's like saying movies don't matter, books don't matter, math doesn't matter, history doesn't matter. And that's just my opinion on it. And if I had it my way, and I was just sitting in the White House and I was like the 72 president of the United States, I would have already had a bill already filled out that pretty much assures that video games from the past, present, and the future to be automatically archived, and whatever media that is out there that is just not being archived. I would have turned Myrient into kind of like a library, right? It's like government owned, or like it's government funded, right? And I know that's a huge big claim because there's a lot more big fishes to fry than video game preservation, let's just be honest, but I think it is important. It's not just the fact that someone made a video game, or someone made some art, or someone made a movie, or someone made music. It's the fact of like, not only the expression, but like the history of it and the knowledge of like keeping that preserved, right? But not only that, but it's our culture, you know? And I feel like if we let that die, it's kind of like, you know, shit. But that's pretty much where Myrient is right now. And honestly, it makes me kind of concerned about all the other like ROM sites, you know what I mean? Because if this can happen to Myrient, I mean, it can happen to all the other ones. I don't think I really need to say why ROMs and emulators are so important, even though they kind of live in kind of a weird gray area. But I'm just gonna go ahead and say it anyway. There are a lot of games out there that are so rare, that cost so much money, that you can't even really be a retro collector. And trust me, I've tried. I remember buying Stubbs the Zombie for $120. That was for the original Xbox, until they re-released it on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and I was really pissed about it. But the thing about it is there's some games out there that are never going to be re-released, they're never going to be remastered, they're never going to be remade, and it's just this very gray area where you basically have to commit piracy just to be able to play the game that you owned like 40 years ago. But unfortunately, there's not an alternative to actually play it legally. Except if you want to spend an arm and a leg buying the physical media for $800, and that's not even including the hardware you would actually need to actually run it. So you either steal it, go broke, or don't play it at all. That's your options. And on top of that, whether you believe it or not, whether it's a Atari, a NES, a SNES, a PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, Xbox Original, Xbox 360, no matter what it is, anything that has a motherboard on it has a timer. And there's going to be a day where there's only one NES in existence that actually still functions. And that's honestly the sad reality of it. There's going to be a day and time where you're going to hear about PlayStation 1, and the only way you're ever going to see it working is through like a Wikipedia picture. But that's the great thing about ROMs and emulators, because your PC basically acts like a PlayStation 1, and it runs that ISO file like a PlayStation 1 would, basically meaning you cut any problem with like hardware. It's not always foolproof. There's some games out there that still can't really run properly, but usually the mass majority does. And that's really the whole reason why emulators and ROMs are so important, because there's going to be a day where that's the only option. But that's pretty much it. What do you guys think about Myrient? What do you think about emulators in general? Tell me what you think. Like, comment, subscribe, skiddly boppity boop. I'm out.